Hello, a very warm welcome to today's Scottish Golf Zoom panel where we'll focus on visitor marketing. I'm Ian Evans, Club Business Manager at Scottish Golf, and I will be your host again today. On today's call, I'm delighted to be joined by four experts from across the golf industry in Scotland. First up, Barne from Fife Golf, a former PGA professional who has 25 years experience in the golf industry. He's currently Managing Director of golf agency Platform 77 and has project managed the Fife Golf Partnership for the past 8 years. Good afternoon, Liam. Good to have you. Next, I'd like to say we have Alan Minto from Golf Perthshire, an experienced tourism consultant specialising in golf. Over a career spanning 43 years, both in golf and tourism, Alan has developed an extensive knowledge in the business and opportunities for these sectors. For the past 18 years, he has primarily managed projects to create and develop golf tourism destinations, firstly in East Lothian and more recently Perthshire, embracing the wider tourism sector to expand the product offering to entice more visitors to the region and to encourage longer stays. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
Thanks, Ian.
Also delighted to say we have Jane Taylor from Carnoustie Country, who has worked in the golf industry for almost 25 years. For the past 10 years, she's been employed within the economic development team at Angus Council as sector officer for golf, leading on the development and delivery of the Carnoustie Country Golf Destination campaign and providing business support for the golf tourism sector. Good afternoon, Jane. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ian.
And finally, we have David Connor, who is Visit Scotland's Golf PR Manager, where he leads Visit Scotland's golf PR and marketing activity, promoting the country's golf tourism offering and activities, promoting the golf and offering and activating the world-class portfolio events, including the likes of the Open, the Solheim Cup, and the Aberdeen Standard Investments Men's and Ladies Open. Thanks for joining us, David.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ian.
This is only a brief snapshot of the experience of today's panel, and thank you all for joining us. The format of today's call will be a straight Q&A. We've received several pre-submitted questions ahead of today's call, and I'll pose these to our panel of experts. But don't worry, if you didn't get a chance to submit a question in advance, or you have more questions during the call, you'll be able to submit your question in the Q&A function below. Just click on the button, type in your question, and we will try to get round to as many of them as possible. Okay. Without further ado, let's get on to the questions. First of all, I'd like to start on maybe some of the wider services or support available to clubs and golf venues. David, if I can, as Visit Scotland's representative, start with yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about how Visit Scotland supports the industry, the golf industry, and does Visit Scotland offer any tools or resources for clubs or venues that they can tap into?
Yeah, delighted to. Thanks, Ian. I suppose at the very top level, Visit Scotland exists to grow our visitor economy. And that is to say we want people to come into the country to be spending money in our golf tourism attractions, our golf hotels, our restaurants, our bars, and of course our golf courses. And we see golf tourism being a real key facet of our overall visitor economy. So I suppose breaking that down, we do that in a number of ways. We run consumer campaigns. That can be anything from TV advertising, digital campaigns, consumer e-newsletters, the annual guide to golf that we publish, showcasing Scotland's golfing regions, running media, social influencer trips and content, anything that we can really do at that top level to educate and inspire golfers around the world to want to visit Scotland. Aside from the consumer activity, we do a lot of travel trade activity. The travel trade is obviously very important to Scotland and our golf tourism. That involves regular engagement with global tour operators, educating them, ensuring that they have the tools to market their Scotland packages to their customers and consumers. And the key objective there really is to encourage them to diversify and enhance their product range to ensure that there's strong regionality across the country. You know, they're touching on all regions of Scotland and strong seasonality as well, not just focusing obviously on those summer months to try and extend the period. And then I suppose lastly from the activity that we do, I suppose it's investing in supporting the world's biggest golf events, ensuring that they come here regularly. They're effectively one of our biggest and best shop windows to the world. We use them to highlight our great golfing regions, bring economic impact during the events themselves, but obviously many months and years down the line, ensuring that benefit continues to be realised, and that's working with broadcasters and media to ensure that our messaging is aligned with these major events. And that's without even touching on some of the more kind of legacy benefits associated with these events, working with partners like Scottish Golf to ensure that, you know, golf schemes, junior programs, health and well-being, etc., are all around those. In terms of some of the tools that the Visit Scotland offers to tourism businesses, in the world we live in, obviously COVID-19 is huge. So I suppose first and foremost, we have a COVID advice page on visitscotland.org, including funding stream information, links to guidance, etc. And I know that Scottish Golf website has a lot of that, particularly for golf clubs. You know, when it comes to more wider tourism businesses, there's a lot of information on them as well. I see Visit Scotland as being the kind of top of the funnel. So the activity that I've mentioned before is there to inspire and educate. And then a number of the resources that we have helps to kind of funnel that down into to make sure that the regions and golf clubs themselves can benefit from some of that activity that we do. Other resources are free web listings on visitscotland.com, which gets up to 10 million visitors per year. So we would certainly encourage any golf clubs and golf tourism businesses to take advantage of that free web listing. We have a digital media library where there's imagery, video content, Scotland Home of Golf logo, all available to download and use for free to promote golf clubs and regional offerings. We run regular webinar sessions, very much like this one, but perhaps focused on ways to work with other golf tourism businesses, hotels, B&Bs, guest houses. We have a wealth of visitor insights and research that's available for businesses. And while that's, I suppose, a lot to get your head around, we also have an industry relationship manager, or a team of industry relationship managers, I should say, who are dedicated to specific areas around the country that can, I suppose, help disseminate a lot of these tools, a lot of this information, and work with businesses to make sure that they're maximising that. And one of the key things that we want to do is ensure that more golf clubs know who their industry relationship managers are and are engaging with them. I think it's really important that our teams see golf clubs as tourism businesses, and the golf clubs themselves see themselves as tourism businesses as well. Excellent.
Thank you very much. There was a heck of a lot in there, and really good stuff. So no, but fantastic, because what we'll do is when we send this out for the people watching and watch afterwards, we'll link all these services to make them aware of on the Visit Scotland website. And as you mentioned, those relationship managers, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Jane, if I can come on to you now, you obviously represent one of the regional tourism groups across the country, and I just wonder if you could talk about what are some of the benefits that golf clubs and venues could get from engaging with their regional group.
Okay, thanks, Ian. So I suppose it's kind of similar to the services that are offered from Visit Scotland at national level, but it's much more localised. So a bit less top line, much more individualised, tailored to the individual areas. And I think for me, there are two key things that are really important in terms of what happens more regionally and locally. Collaboration for me and working together, and those are the key things. Firstly, it means that clubs have got an opportunity to be included in activity that probably otherwise they wouldn't have been able to afford to do, or they haven't got the skills to do, or they haven't got time to do, for example. So that might be joint attendance at consumer shows or trade activity. It might be participation in fam trips, for example. It might be photography or film projects, those kind of costly activities that I think work better in terms of collaboration and working together and sharing budgets. The other thing that I think is really, really important is the networking aspect, the coming together, the meeting each other, the sharing of best practice, the communication around all of that, tapping into the expertise of your local regional officers. You know, we're always on hand. A one-to-many approach is nice, but we're also happy to do one-to-one and be contactable for businesses. So, you know, it's very much more of a tailored approach and working together to deliver best value for everyone in the region.
Thank you very much. And so anyone in those respective regions can contact their local representative and get that more bespoke support. Thank you very much. I'll come on to you next, Alan, if I may. I want to talk a little bit about the Solheim Legacy Fund project, Scottish Golf, was able to apply for some funding from Visit Scotland to help some of the local tourism collectives, then help clubs and venues nationally. And you're heavily involved in that. I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that and what clubs can expect to come out of it.
Yes, thanks, Ian. The Solheim Legacy Fund was set up really to support a number of initiatives that were aimed at increasing participation, growing participation, particularly in ladies and girls golf, but it also was there to support some golf tourism initiatives throughout the whole country. As you said, Scottish Golf submitted the application and was successful at the beginning of 2020, and they've kindly asked the regional golf groups to manage that project. And in addition to doing work to support the existing regional groups, we're looking at some of the new emerging groups that were potentially happening throughout the country. The main thing that we're working on, and the main product that will appeal to everyone, is a brand new website that's being created at the moment. It's under development, but it's the first, or probably the only website that's in Scotland that's dedicated totally to golf tourism. It will feature every golf club in the country, accommodation providers will be there, golf tour operators, golf transport providers, and all other relevant golf service providers throughout Scotland. And it's looking very different to any other golf website that we've seen in the past. It's very visual, looking at high quality imagery throughout the site, very little text. And our ambition is really to inspire visiting golfers to come to Scotland and stay for longer and play more golf courses, as Jane said, one of our ambitions in the regional groups. We're, an area of the site that we're particularly excited about is like a magazine section, which is going to really focus on inspiring content. There'll be blogs, videos, podcasts, all on golf tourism, golf travel, and that will give us an opportunity to mix in the trophy courses, the tier 1 courses with the tier 2 and tier 3 courses. It'll be features on things like golf and whiskey, traveling, playing golf by train, so we can link in sort of courses that are better known and courses that are lesser known at the same time. The developers have got the master pages created for us now, so it's a big task to obviously populate the website now with all the information and images, which have to be resized and optimized for the site. So I think we're looking at probably launching the site towards the end of October. So the focus is really on trying to generate business and drive visitors into Scotland for the 2021 season on that project. Yep. We're also working with a guy called Andy Sullivan, who's better known as the Average Golfer on social media channels. Andy's producing 21 videos for us in a series which actually launches tonight. It'll be up on his YouTube channel from 5:30 tonight. It starts off with the Glen Golf Course down in North Berwick. And as I say, he's doing 21 episodes throughout the country, and the series is called Scotland's Less Obvious. So there's a lot more focus there on tier 2 and tier 3 courses. And Andy's got about 32,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. So we're probably anticipating about 250,000 views of the videos from that series on his YouTube channel. And the final activity that we're doing just now is new photography for golf courses. We've commissioned 2 young Scottish photographers to do some work. We've subsidised it as well, and we're offering it to golf clubs for £50 that they can get new photography for their course, which they will be free to use on their website and social media channels and any marketing collateral that they produce. And we'll also use those images for the new website, and we'll share them across our social media channels as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alan. I really appreciate that. Just briefly, if you can, there's one question just to kind of give us a snapshot of how big the current visitor golf market is in Scotland. Where do they come from? Perhaps, David, is that might be one for you? Do you know kind of how big is that industry to Scotland?
Yeah, happy to jump in there. It's big, thankfully. Otherwise, I might not have a job. But I suppose to showcase how big it is that within Visit Scotland, only golf has dedicated people supporting the industry, cycling, whiskey, castles, etc. They're part of our general marketing activity, but golf has specifically dedicated people to it. I suppose the big numbers are worth £286 million per year, in the region of 700,000 or so visitor golf rounds per year, and supporting more than 4,500 jobs. And they are the numbers that we use to ensure that we get support for golf internally, but with Scottish government as well. But I suppose from a marketing perspective, the key data we're really looking for is where do the visitors come from, how do they get here, how do they decide to get here, and what do they do when they're here. So approximately 50% of the golfing visitors in Scotland are domestic from Scotland, so it's really important not to overlook that market in particular. But then when we look at overnight visitors, we obviously look at some different markets, and we're looking at about 80% of visitors coming from Scotland, the rest of the UK and the US. So those three markets make up 80% of our golfing visitors, which is very interesting. And then Germany and Scandinavia are probably the biggest two markets after those. It's worth noting more than half of overseas visitors, particularly Europeans, have been to Scotland before. So that really highlights the fact that Scotland isn't now seen as a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list trip to make. You know, these visitors are coming back again, you know, with the more ease of air travel, etc., and you know, perhaps people not being afraid or put off of coming to Scotland, and it not being as big an ordeal perhaps as it once was. So that's very interesting. And then just in terms of how people book, over a quarter use or book a package through a tour operator. And that's, as you would expect, the prevalence of that increases in you know, some of the longer haul markets. That figure is probably about 38 to 40% of North Americans coming here will book through a tour operator. There's loads of really good in-depth specific insight into those markets on our website at visitscotland.org. We last did a big visitor survey in 2016. So there's lots of data on there, including specific data relating to those markets and giving real key insights into those markets, length of stays, number of golf days versus non-golf days, the type of accommodation different markets prefer, that sort of thing. So all of that's on our website, and we certainly encourage golf clubs to go on there and have a look at that. And again, just to highlight the importance of data, is that when we went out and did that survey, that involved something like 1,500 face-to-face interviews at golf courses specifically, followed up by around 2,000 online surveys. But the biggest thing that we found is that individual golf clubs perhaps didn't quite have the data or didn't know where their own visitors were coming from. Mm-hmm. And I think as we move into, you know, more of a digital world or digital landscape, you know, I would encourage more golf clubs to, when they are getting visitors, record where they're coming from. How did people hear about them? Where did they book? So that they have that data at their fingertips, and they can then, you know, start to shape their marketing plans around those.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Some really good high-level data there for clubs to understand the size of the potential, and obviously Scotland being the home of golf, so fantastic. Liam, thank you. You've been sitting there very patiently. I'm keen to bring you in. This is maybe, again, we're going to get hopefully in a bit more of the best practice. This is maybe still a national question. I don't think there's necessarily, well, I don't know, but I'm going to put this one to you first of all. So the question is, given the high level of understandable visitor cancellations this year, do the panel think that there should be an industry standard on how to deal with cancellations or reschedules, i.e. a standard refund policy, costs to reschedule, etc., as each club relies heavily on visitor income, seems to have its own terms and conditions, which must be infuriating for the visiting golfer? That's a lot to get your head around, but what's your view on that one, Liam?
I can understand why the industry would sort of look at this from a broad perspective and say, you know, there should be a standardised sort of procedure they can go through, but it's going to be very, very difficult to implement because we have such a fantastically diverse golf product across Scotland. And so many different types of businesses, sizes of businesses that are set up in different ways. And that means that for each of these businesses to operate from exactly the same playing field would be very, very challenging. For example, as we already know, some golf courses will ask for 100% payment up front and not offer refunds on a standard basis. Other courses will ask for a deposit to be paid. These deposits will be asked to be paid at different times, with the full sum being paid either on the day or before the day. So it's a very difficult thing to say, well, let's standardise that. What I would say is that I think what it has brought to attention is, and I think a lot of golf clubs have reacted very well to this, is that it has given them the opportunity to actually do a bit of an audit of their current procedures and look at them and say, okay, how can we make this a pretty pain-free customer experience, which is very, very important. So it means that whether it's a tour operator booking that round of golf or whether it's a golfer booking that round of golf, they will have as pain-free a process in place to allow them to either reschedule their booking, which is obviously what everyone would prefer, because that doesn't obviously require the refunding of money, but also then what that refund will look like and make sure that the processes are in place going forwards, which makes that as smooth a process as possible.
Okay, excellent. Is there anything else? Want to add anything else on that at all? Is that about? Okay. Liam, if I can stay with you at the moment, I'm keen to get into some of the practical hints and tips that clubs can enact at their club to make the most of the potential they've got in terms of visitor revenue. So I'm going to take two questions together, but feel free to break them up. There's quite a lot here. So how do clubs go about defining their customer and their offering? You know, there's something we've talked about before. And then in the back of that, how do clubs present their product, define their unique selling point, build a brand? How to stand out against everyone else? There's a lot there, but what would you advise clubs?
If we sort of, I think it's really important for golf clubs to kind of do a bit of an audit of their own business and be quite critical of that, and look at themselves, look at where they are positioned in the market from the type of golf experience the golfer's having, but also obviously a price point as well. So who is that golfer? Who is that person that wants to spend money with you? Is that someone that's wanting to spend £300 a round, or is that someone that's wanting to spend £40 a round? And from that, again, go back to the wonderfully diverse product we have in Scotland, there are so many amazing stories. There is so much history, around about who designed the course, how the course was formed. Was it originally 9 holes, then was it 18 holes? Where is it located? Who were the founding members? All this sort of stuff. There's so many great, pieces of information and really interesting information that can be used to help pull together what that looks like from a brand perspective and what the customer can expect, the expectation. It's really, really important, going back to what Alan had said earlier on, imagery, video is very much part of that. Make sure you're capturing your golf course as you're building this brand to actually what it is going to look like, to build that anticipation in the golfer. What can they expect? They're going to look at the website and look at these fantastic images and go, that's just a wonderful golf hole. I can't wait to play that when I visit there. And then it's the look and feel of the communications you have. So you've got the website content, you've got the social media channels that you use. I'll not diversify too far into social media because I go into that for a long time, but certainly just about the website and the tone that's used. Is it welcoming for golfers? We want golfers to feel warm and positive about the experience they're going to have. Do not have your website telling people what they can't do. Golf websites, I think historically, ones that I've looked at, and we're getting better and better at this, but you can't play then, you can't do this, you can't wear that, you can't go in the clubhouse then. It's all that type of stuff. So let's make it a really nice, warm, enthusiastic, we can't wait to welcome you message that we're getting out there. And then, when it's coming to defining that customer, jumping back a bit, it's looking at your price point, looking at the people that you have had playing that golf course previously, but also looking at some new markets as well. It's quite fascinating that, some golf courses that we might think are not on the trophy course list doesn't mean that they can't be a fantastic experience and people can have really good fun playing them. So look at other options. I actually, funnily enough, played Kinghorn Golf Club this morning with David Roy, who's the manager from Crail, and he said he had taken 3 Texan golfers who were all multimillionaires to Kinghorn, and they play golf all over the world, and they said that was one of the top 10 golfing experiences they've ever had, because it was just so pure, it was so natural and so much fun. So you know, don't discount other markets that you think might be out with those that you currently engage with, because it's all about having a fun experience, and we have so many golf courses across Scotland that fun is the name of the game when it comes to playing them.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Jane, I'd like to bring you back in here. Very often golf clubs, their marketing activity can be managed by a volunteer, sometimes volunteer committee, or by a club manager who's very, very busy with other things. So sometimes clubs can choose to use outside agencies to help them market the club. Obviously money's tight, but would you have any hints or tips to give to clubs who are thinking about using outside agencies to help drive that revenue stream visitor golf?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, even as a regional golf group, we use outside agencies sometimes as well. I think you've got to consider the purpose of using the outside agency. You need to consider the project and the objective of the project. There has to be tangible benefit of doing that. If it's just using an outside agency for the sake of it, because you haven't got time, then that might not represent value for money. So, for example, marketing expertise is not something that most golf clubs have. So if you need to buy that in, if you need photography, if you need someone to help you develop your brand, for example, if it's someone to help you deliver your social media, but what would the benefit be? I think you have to look at it in terms of the holistic project. What's the outcome? What's the purpose? If you need it, can you afford it? Then if there's a tangible win on that, then absolutely it's a good idea to do. I just think you have to look at it in terms of the whole purpose of it and what the measurable outcome might be. So. Okay.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned photography and video there. I wonder, this is something which I know a lot of you have been involved in, but Alan, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. How important is good photography and video? And what advice should we give to clubs when considering getting up-to-date photography and video for their venue or course?
So, Alan, sorry, Alan.
As you said, quite a few of us have said, you know, that high quality images are really essential if you want to attract not just visitors, but I suppose members as well. You know, when we were looking at the Solheim Legacy Fund, that was one of the priorities we thought when we saw weaknesses across the whole country as well. So it's something that we want to try and develop. Too many golf club websites, you know, the main feature is their clubhouse, you know, and that's not going to inspire visiting golfers to part with their hard-earned cash. It has to be good quality images, but capturing the most interesting parts of the golf course, you know, bringing out the features. Another thing that we see often is people in the images as well. And, you know, although they might work very well for social media, I think when you're, again, trying to inspire golfers, you know, there's so many things that can actually go wrong with getting people in them, like badly dressed or bad swings. You know, it can actually turn people off in some ways. So just good images of the course would work better, in my opinion. And they're essential for so many aspects now. You know, we've spoken about social media here, which has become a huge marketing tool for golf clubs. And if you to share or attach an image or a video clip along with your message that you're trying to get out there, the chances of getting engagement are just so much greater. So just short little 30-second video clips would work well. If you're looking to produce a longer video, that's probably more appropriate to embed on your website. But certainly it's worth considering an investment with a professional photographer if it's at all possible within the budget.
Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned that opportunity clubs are going to have £50 to get some professional imagery, and that'll be something that we'll certainly make clubs aware of when it comes available. You mentioned social media. If I could just jump to that, Liam, I know this is an area you've been involved in yourself heavily. It's a big question, but what would you say? How can clubs leverage social media effectively?
I think one of the biggest observations I've had, you know, looking through different golf club social media channels and feeds, is that a lot of the posting is about the club itself. So there's a lot of reporting on medal scores, on courses being opened and closed, and all that type of thing, which you know has its benefits for the member golfer. But you know, let's look outwardly and say, right, okay, how can we actually include a lot of visitor communication in this as well? And that's where the imagery stuff that we've all spoken about today is very, very important. And it's about having a proper sort of plan as to what the core information you're going to be feeding out looks like. And in every golf club, I would say now there are people who are members of that golf club who either work as their full-time job or part-time job within social media and digital marketing, or their volunteers are very keen on engaging with it. And I would say, well, speak to them and maybe even offer them a reduced membership or free membership and say, could you take care of our social media, and sit down with them and say, right, okay, what are the main events we've got on over the 6-month summer season or whatever, or review it every 2 or 3 months. Here's the core maybe member communications we want to put in there, but what other visitor communications we put out in there? So if it's an early season, we'll do an early season promotion, right? Okay, what can we pull together to get that promotion in place? And speak to someone. You can get really nice graphics done. They're not expensive to do, but they're actually images that just go through your social media. So they're very clean, they're very tidy, they've got all the information on there they need. It's not lots of text and big long links that you've got to click and everything. So it's worth doing a few of these as well, because it's one of the greatest tools you have. Link that, again, going back to brand, link that, look, feel the same as the website, in the same tone, professionally done. You can also look, depending on budgets, look at doing some advertising through these channels, and the targeted advertising is massively beneficial and can really drive you quality business. And also when it comes to open events and things, now with the way technology is with Facebook and other channels, you can click here and you can basically sign up and register there and then. And through that as well, you can obviously capture data as well. So it's hugely useful, and I could speak about this for longer, but we don't have a long time. But that's just sort of a bit of a snapshot, I think, about of kind of where the benefits are for the visitor.
David mentioned earlier about data. I guess if you have the data on where your customers traditionally come from, you can perhaps use some of that to help your targeted campaigns be
definitely
a return on investment, which of course, data is kind of like it is key for doing that effectively. Okay, one question. I had a couple questions on pricing. Again, this is quite a wide question, but I wonder if I could put this one to you, Jane. How important is pricing, and what advice would you give to clubs and venues when thinking about how they can decide what price to sell a product at?
I think pricing is one of these really critical areas of your business, but I think it's quite complicated as well. I think it's quite tempting to get the visitor to pay just as much as you think you might be able to squeeze out of them. Or I think too often, and certainly in the past in golf clubs, they look at their cash flow and think we need to put prices up, etc. But it really it's only one element of the whole marketing mix, if you like. So it's very much related to your customer experience, it's value perception. So does the product match the price that you're charging? And you have to look at not just the quality of your golf course, but the whole experience around that, the reception, the welcome, your food and drink offering. It's great to be able to offer really good quality, authentic experiences around your food and drink, around that warm welcome. It doesn't need to be expensive to be good value, but it does need to fit your product, it does need to fit your customer, it all needs to be tied together. So it's quite complex. I think it needs almost a strategic view of it, so that it fits the right price, the right product to the right market, and putting that all together. And of course, you will have price variances as well. You maybe want to maximize and be quite dynamic with that. So I think it's just something that really needs to form part of a plan. We've spoken a lot today about clear objectives and planning, knowing your customer. And really, it's just part of that whole discussion. Okay,
thank you very much. And staying with you, it's a slightly, I guess, a different topic, but in terms of travel media, talk about fam trips. You mentioned them earlier. I just wonder, one of the questions we had was, what are fam trips and how would I go about setting one up?
Yeah, fam trips, I think, is something that people are hearing more and more about. So a fam trip is a familiarization trip. It's an experiential trip. So that would be bringing someone along to actually play on your golf course, experience that whole experience, that customer journey from start to finish. And that might be for travel media, that might be for a tour operator if that was your customer. But essentially, it's just showcasing. It's a great opportunity to showcase your product and to get some nice story created around it. But again, it's a bit of thought into that. What would be the purpose of you bringing somebody along to experience your golf course, your golf club? Is it to generate some brand awareness? Is it because you want to create some PR for an event or a new product, a stay and play product, or a golf pass if you're working with partners, etc.? So think about the purpose of that trip, what assets you might need for that trip. So if you're bringing in golf media and it's going to be something that might appear in print or even online, you really need good imagery to support that. If you don't have those assets in place, then that's a little bit of a waste of a fan trip, because if that piece of content is supported by poor quality imagery, then really is that going to inspire someone to come and play your golf course? So that might not be the right avenue for you unless you've got that in place already. Sometimes the fam trips these days, it might be using social influencers, for example, if you're looking for some digital content for your social channels or to sit on your website. And you don't need to spend a lot of money. That's the other thing as well. Think about who your customers are, what media you want to engage with, or what media your potential customers perhaps engage with. Social influencers will possibly come along, and many of the media will come along for no more than just their expenses. But then, is that the content that you want? Does that fit your project brief, if you like? There's lots and lots of bits and pieces, but it's a great opportunity to tell a story. And if you can tell that story well, I think that's the key, is thinking about what the purpose is and make sure that it's really interesting and engaging for your target audience.
Excellent.
I would also just say, regional golf groups are really experienced in doing that. As our Visit Scotland, it's quite a good thing to do with partners. Then you can kind of expand on it, make it more people who are coming perhaps looking for a stay and play break, something more than just one single experience, more than just one day trip. So work with partners, get in touch with your local regional officers or Visit Scotland, or also just other partners who work in the area that perhaps you can expand on that, an accommodation provider, a food and drink experience, and make it a really valuable story.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We did have a couple of questions around tour operators in Scottish Golf Tourism Week. There were separate questions, but I wonder, Alan, if I could put a question to you around Scottish Golf Tourism Weeks. I know one of the key objectives is linking clubs with tour operators. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. What clubs should consider going along to that?
Yeah. Well, really, for anyone who has a product that will appeal to an international golf audience, Scottish Golf Tourism Week is probably the best opportunity they'll get. It's an opportunity to meet with multiple buyers directly and discuss rates and booking terms and contracts and everything that goes towards building up that relationship with a buyer. There's more than 100 Scottish businesses that attend, and I think they carry out more than 4,000 face-to-face meetings over the course of that week. It begins off with familiarization trips, linking into what Jane says, that it gives those international buyers an opportunity to see the products and experience them for themselves. And then everyone comes together, and it's almost like speed dating, the way it's set up, where you get a 10-15 minute session with face-to-face with the buyer. But as I say, I think it's probably the best opportunity by far and most economical way. But you definitely need to have a product that will appeal to that international market. But compared to IGTM, which was historically the golf show that everyone went to for the travel trade, it's more affordable to some of the tier 2 golf clubs, for example, who might have the perfect product for that audience, because you've not got the traveling expenses and hotel expenses like you would to go into these international shows.
Okay, thank you. And Liam, just following on from that, how can clubs work with tour operators? What hints and tips would you give clubs looking at? Is it just for the big clubs, or can the tier 2, 3 clubs look to work with tour operators too?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's historically, it was the big clubs as you're speaking about, but now there's the advent of digital opportunities, promotion through digital channels. A number of tour operators are set up very much online, and they're very keen to look at different product. What can we do differently? What can we offer our customers? And I think, again, it goes back to understanding your USP and who you are as a golf club. And once you have sort of done that audit, you've taken that on board, then you can look and say, right, okay, what type of golfers, the regional golf development groups can help sort of direct you with this, but what type of golfers, we'd want to go and play our golf course. Now, for a lot of golf courses across Scotland, you know, the Northern Europeans, the Scandinavians, those from obviously the rest of the UK, and also, you know, the Netherlands, Germany, are delighted to come and play what we know as the Tier 2 golf courses, and they'll have a fantastic experience. So if you want to work with them, you know, you need to get yourself tour operator ready, is really the expression I would use, and say that, you know, make sure that the booking experience for a tour operator is obvious. You need to incentivize them with net rates. So look upon that sort of commission, if you like, payment as being for them to sell and market your product. Look at working potentially with some other golf courses that are located quite closely to you. And you know, what can you pull together? Because tour operators love things that can be easily packaged. And also work again on ensuring what not just the tour operator booking experience is like, but what their client experience will be like. So do you have someone to welcome their clients when they come off the bus or they turn up in the car? What does that experience look like the time they leave the golf course? Because tour operators, if they come and experience that and then they sell it to their customers, they want to know that their customers are going to have a good experience. They don't want, you know, to book them in on Tuesday morning and find out the kitchen's been closed when they haven't been told that, and all that type of information. And pass on as much as you can to tour operator about, is club hire available, is shoe hire available, is there a driving range, is there coaching available, you know, all that type of information. What are the catering hours, what type of catering, can they have a private room, can they have a show around the clubhouse, you know, all that sort of stuff can really add value to the products. So I think the best port of call is you know, if you don't currently deal with tour operators and would like to, you know, speak to David at Visit Scotland, or speak to one of the regional golf development officers or managers who can help sort of support that.
Excellent, thank you very much. And I'm conscious of time, and if I can just have a final question to yourself, David. Some people may have seen the Only in Scotland, the Home of Golf campaign, the video on that. I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and what clubs can tap into surrounding that.
Yeah, hopefully people have seen it. It's kind of led with a video voiced by Andrew Cotter of Mabel and Olive fame now. We couldn't quite afford Mabel and Olive, but we got Andrew. It's our current consumer campaign. It was actually developed pre-COVID to kind of celebrate the unique selling points of Scotland, of which obviously golf is a key one. Obviously been tweaked to suit the current climate now, and we've added a line saying that you don't have to travel far to make a big difference, and that's effectively aimed at a domestic audience, encouraging people to travel around the country, support their own tourism businesses. And I think from a golf perspective, you know, traditionally when some of our golfers are going to Spain or Portugal or Turkey, and every year they're really forgetting what's on their own doorstep and the sheer quality of what we have here. So it's really trying to raise that awareness here in our own country, inspire them, re-educate them, and instill that pride of what we have here, and so they realise that the benefits of a domestic golf trip. And I suppose we hope, well, we obviously hope and expect that will generate visitor income for clubs, but perhaps even ultimately have a potential side effect of increasing membership through lapsed golfers who are, you know, potentially looking to get back into it, having been locked in their houses for 4 or 5 months, and, you know, finally kind of set free. We'll obviously be looking to roll that out into other markets as and when the time allows, and you know, we start seeing kind of easing of quarantine restrictions and travel restrictions into the rest of UK and Europe, and we see that Only in Scotland line being a real positive and a real one that we can get golf behind as well. For a long time we do it reasonably successfully, get golf into our wider campaigns, and you know, when it comes to Only in Scotland and a unique selling point, golf fits perfectly into that. So we're really looking forward to ramping that up.
Brilliant stuff. And I know in these unprecedented times as a golfer myself, I do feel very privileged that I can enjoy playing golf in a safe way, the way things currently are. So thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's Zoom panel call. We would like once again to thank Liam, Alan, Jane and David for joining us and their valuable insight and expertise, which will no doubt have been extremely valuable to all of our delegates on today's call. Don't forget, if you'd like to catch up on any of our previous webinars, you can watch them all on our website at scottishgolf.org. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe and a very good day to you. Thank you again to all the panelists. Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, Ian.